emphasized through film and popular culture. Cowboys, outlaws, and lawmen pushing through swinging saloon doors, quick-draw duels, vast landscapes, the promise of a better life. All of this has been framed as the epitome of American individualism and adventure, as the experiences that made Americans and made America great. But it really wasn't so great. A lot of horrible things went on in the Wild West, things that were far from romantic. Welcome back to Nutty History. Today, we're exploring why you wouldn't survive life in the Wild West. Viewer discretion is advised for this video, as some of this video may be offensive or disturbing. We, the makers of this video, in no way support or condone the actions of the subjects featured. Just getting out west was a dangerous and deadly journey. The main route out there for families traveling in covered wagons was the Oregon Trail, the Mormon Pioneer Trail, and the California Trail. This network of trails has been called the nation's longest graveyard. Between the 1840s and 1860s, some 400,000 people made the trek out west. About 1 in 10 survived. It's estimated that along the 2,000 miles of trail, 10 to 15 people bit the dust every mile. And they succumbed to all kinds of horrible things. The number one cause of death was disease. There was often very little food and a lack of clean drinking water. Unsanitary conditions created petri dishes for disease. Cholera was the number one culprit. It tore through the wagons of the Wild West pioneers. Caused by bacteria in unclean water, some people would contract the disease in the morning and be dead by noon, the same day. Firearm wounds were another major cause of casualties along the trail, but not in the way you might think. A lot of the pioneers were scared of Native Americans, so they brought entire arsenals of weapons along with them on their journey. However, for the most part, the Native Americans were pretty peaceful. Yeah, there were some hostile tribes like the Apache and Cheyenne who were just trying to defend their home, but for the most part, the natives actually helped immigrants traveling westward. They would often give them supplies and help them cross rivers. Firearm wounds were often inflicted by the pioneers on themselves. Cases of misfiring, accidental pop-offs, and hunting accidents were by far the most common types of accidental deaths. And if pioneers didn't immediately succumb to their wounds, they were very likely to die due to infection shortly afterwards. One of the most famous Wild West towns during the 1800s was Dodge City, Kansas. It was so notorious for crime and lawlessness that the name became a common English idiom. Getting out of Dodge, meaning getting away from a bad situation, was inspired by the desire of many to get out of Dodge City, Kansas, because it was too dangerous. The city took on kind of a mythical air over the years. But how much is actually true and how much is overhyped hearsay? Dodge City was founded in 1872, after serving as a fort since 1865, playing a role in several battles between Native Americans and the encroaching colonizers. The town was first established as a major buffalo trading post. By 1876, over 1.5 million buffalo hides had passed through the city. However, nearly all the buffalo on the American plains had been wiped out by the end of the 1870s, and Dodge City transitioned into a cattle town as cowboys would ride through with their hoofed wares. In the first year after Dodge City was founded, there was no sheriff or law enforcement of any kind. The town was quickly connected to the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad, and development exploded, leading to all kinds of people flocking to the town, some of them admittedly not so savory in character. As a result, there were a series of duels and deaths that first year that quickly gave Dodge City a bad reputation. Gunslingers would often die with their boots on, and the first cemetery in the town was named Boot Hill Cemetery. The media picked up on the initial lawlessness of Dodge City, and headlines from around the country began sensationalizing the violence. And Dodge City was soon a mythologized symbol of the lawless Wild West, justified or not. There was one joke that began circulating. It went like this. A gentleman wishing to go from Wichita to Dodge City applied to a friend for a letter of introduction. He was handed a double-barrel shotgun and a Colt revolver. Eventually, the legendary lawman Wyatt Earp was brought in to restore order. Firearms were banned in certain parts of town, and the newly built jails were soon full. Dodge City became a relatively organized town, but its reputation had already been cemented by the press, and later, Hollywood. Saloons are a well-known staple of the Wild West.
Right, shalom, giving no praise unto Bashim Bashim Korash, double honors unto the apostles of great millstone, and I honor you brothers that be pushing this truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Brother, everybody are coming out here to give you this truth for the grace and mercy of Yahweh Bashim Bashim Korash, giving no praise unto Bashim Bashim Korash. It's going to be a relatively quick video. I wanted to just watch this clip, go into a little bit of the history of Edomite nature, Edomite way of living since the foundation of America, and what you got right now is a growing sentiment, a hatred, or rather more an exposing of the hatred that Esau has deep down for you Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans. And it's become ever more apparent that they're trying to make you the problem. They're trying to make it to where you are the issue and the downfall of Babylon, which is America, which we understand from the scriptures. That's not the case. The downfall is based on how the resources are utilized within the earth, namely the resources, money, which is really real money, is gold, silver, cattle, land, all that kind of stuff, slaves. That is only really distributed amongst the elite, okay, the JOO, so you can understand, the bankers, so you can understand. But amongst the lower classes, the middle class, which is being eroded, you don't really have a possession of wealth as such. You've got the trading of debt, namely mortgages and and car payment loans and so on and so forth, which really yields a lifestyle that's not productive. Okay, when you're persistently looking for money to pay off to service your debt, you're not really servicing the debt or whatever. That's not really a conducive lifestyle towards prosperity. And that's what one of the foundations of America was all of this prosperity or whatever, right? They sold you the dream. But in actuality, this is a pit that the scripture says, and we see only the elites benefit from this way of lifestyle. However, the sentiment amongst these average day Edomites is that Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans are the what's weighing the economy down and weighing down society and the cultural fabric of America. However, or subsequently, the problem with you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans is that you're violent, dangerous, and immoral. Now, I just wanted to watch this clip here, and really it's a clip that we already know. We already know what the Wild West was like. But just watching this and watching a little bit of the information that's coming from this, you really get a sense and a feeling that this is really the truest nature of Esau. And we can see the hypocrisy when we know what the Wild West is all about and how much murdering and killing was all up into the Wild West. You contrast that with what's happening around Jake. Jake really is just murking their own. Okay, Jake is really just doing the bidding of the Edomite. They're murking their own people. But when it comes down to being the destructive force that Esau paints you out to be, it's just not true. As a matter of fact, from the foundations, like we just seen from this clip, Esau's the one that's wild. They call themselves the Wild West. They so much so that they've sensationalized this idea of being in this lawless place of being. They've sensationalized that particular way of being. And you watch it on the TV, you watch it in the movie, you see the music, you hear everything about the Wild West, but people can't put two and two together that this guy is the beast. This is the guy that's destroyed his own economy by means of what's it called? Fractional reserve banking, all of these loans, all of this way of living. Okay, there's nothing backing the money and all of that. And then he's gonna blame the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans for being wild and being wild. But he's always been the wild guy. Okay? In any event, you can see the hypocrisy. I just wanted to say a few words on it. Without myself, praise unto Abashima Shabashim Kwa Double honors unto the apostles, the great millstone, and honest brothers that be pushing this truth in sincerity, man. Shalom.